Sira stepped out of the small shuttle as it landed quietly near the human university. The air smelled strange, warm, and sweet, full of unknown life. Her silver skin shimmered under Earth's sun, and her large blue eyes moved quickly as she looked around. She had come from the planet Viari, a place where seasons controlled life and order, but Earth felt chaotic. Her mission was simple: observe human males, study their fertility cycles, and send a full report back to the Viari Science Council. But Sira had no idea that her mission would become much more than just science. As she walked across the busy university grounds, students rushed around her. They laughed, talked, and some even sang. No one seemed to notice that Sira was not human. She had disguised herself: carefully human clothes, simple makeup, and a small device that gave her a human-like appearance. Still, deep inside, she felt different. On Viari, everything followed strict rules. Males there were only fertile once a year, during a short season called the Time of Renewal. Outside of that, mating was impossible. But human males... Sira's first report already showed something strange. There was no clear sign of a mating season here. She had expected to see human males acting differently during a certain time of year, but every day seemed the same. Some boys flirted, others ignored her, and some acted shy. Their behavior made no sense to her trained mind. That afternoon, Sira sat quietly in the campus cafe. Her notebook was full of strange observations. Across from her sat James, a young human male with dark hair and kind brown eyes. He had been assigned as her guide, so Sarah James said, smiling. "How's Earth treating you?" Sira tilted her head, a gesture from her planet. "Your behavior is confusing." James laughed. "Welcome to Earth." Sira leaned forward, curious. "I must ask, when does your species begin its mating season?" James froze. His coffee almost slipped from his hand. "Mating season? What do you mean?" Sira spoke seriously. "On my planet, males are only fertile for a short time each year. It is the natural way. I am here to study your species. I must know when your males are fertile." James blinked, and he laughed again. "Sira, we don't have a mating season." Her silver eyebrows lifted. "You do not?" "Nope," James said, still smiling. "Human males are, well, always fertile. All year round." Sira sat back in shock. "That is impossible," she whispered. This was the first time in her life she had heard of such a thing. Even animals on Viari followed the seasons, always fertile? How could a species survive with such freedom? Her heart raced. Her mission just became far more complicated. As the day ended, Sira walked back to her small room on campus. She looked at the humans around her in a new way. The males laughed, ran, and played sports. Were they all fertile? Now this changed. Everything she knew. Inside her room, Sira opened her notebook again. She drew diagrams and wrote notes in her native language. Human males show no visible signs of seasonal fertility. Behavior varies but does not match patterns seen on Viari. She paused, tapping her pen. How could her people have missed this? The Science Council would demand proof. She would have to observe carefully. Maybe James would help her more. He seemed friendly. Perhaps she could ask him more questions tomorrow. But a small part of her felt nervous. There was something about James, a warmth she could not explain. Was this another strange human behavior, or was something changing inside her? That night, Sira sat by the window, looking up at the stars. Her home planet was somewhere out there, far away. But here on Earth, nothing made sense, yet it felt exciting. Tomorrow, her research would continue. And maybe she thought she would start with James. The next morning, Sira woke early. The strange idea that human males were fertile all year kept her mind busy through the night. She was sure this was a mistake, a misunderstanding. No intelligent species could survive like that, could they? Determined to learn more, Sira left her room and walked through the university grounds. She decided to observe human males closely, watch them, study their patterns, and find some hidden clue at the sports field. She spotted James playing a game with his friends. They ran, shouted, and laughed full of energy. She noticed their movements carefully. No signs of any season. No special rituals. They simply acted normal, or at least what humans called normal. Suddenly, James saw her standing at the edge of the field. He waved and jogged over, sweat dripping from his forehead. "Hey, Sira. Dude, look like you're studying us again," he said, smiling warmly. Sira nodded. "I must understand you, James. You are very unusual." James raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" Sira spoke with complete honesty. "You said yesterday that human males are fertile. Always. I cannot accept this without proof." James laughed, but then he noticed her serious expression. "You really want proof?" he asked, half joking. "Yes," Sira replied, completely serious. "I need to understand your biology for my report." James scratched the back of his neck, suddenly a bit nervous. "It's not something we usually discuss so directly, you know." "Ash!" Sira tilted her head again, confused by his hesitation. "But this is very important. My people must understand your system." James chuckled awkwardly. "Sira, humans don't exactly talk about this stuff casually over lunch. But yesterday, you said you were fertile any time. That means now too," she asked bluntly. James almost choked on his water. "Yes, technically yes." Sira's blue eyes widened again. She made a note. In her small book, immediately, observation confirmed. Human male subject reports fertility present at all times. But still, something was missing. Sira didn't just want answers, she wanted to understand the reason. Why did humans live this way? What effect did this constant fertility have on their relationships, their society? James noticed her writing, and smiled. "You really take this seriously, huh?" "Of course," she replied. "It changes everything I know about life itself." She followed James as he sat down on a bench. Other students walked by, laughing and chatting. A young couple sat nearby, holding hands and smiling at each other. Sira stared at them for a moment. "James," she asked, "if your species is always fertile, why do you not mate all the time?" James blushed. "That's not how it works. We have relationships, love, feelings, choices. It's not just biology." "Love," Sira repeated, tasting the strange word. It did not translate easily in her mind. On Viari, mating was simple. Once a year, carefully chosen, with no emotion involved. It was duty, not feeling. Here, humans acted completely differently. She could see it in their eyes, their smiles, their touches. There was warmth in everything. They did, and something else was happening too. Sira noticed her own emotions changing as she observed James. His smile seemed comforting. His laugh sounded pleasant to her ears. This was not normal for her. For the first time, she wondered if her study was affecting her in unexpected ways. As the sun lowered in the sky, Sira made one final note for the day. Human males. Fertility present at all times. Behavior shaped by emotions, not just biology. Further study needed, especially with subject James. But inside, she felt something she couldn't write down yet. Something about humans was pulling her in. And tomorrow, she planned to go even deeper into this strange, warm, confusing world of human behavior. The next day, Sira sat in the university library, surrounded by thick books. She had collected texts on human biology, psychology, and culture. Her notebook was already half full with strange facts, but none of them explained the real mystery. Why were humans so different? She read slowly, carefully, her blue fingers tracing the words. Every book said the same thing. Human males were fertile year-round, without a mating season. But none of the books explained why. None of them explained how humans lived with this constant fertility and didn't turn their entire society into chaos. For Sira, this was confusing. On Viari, fertility was tightly controlled by nature. Without seasons, there would be disorder and distraction everywhere. But humans seemed calm. They worked. They studied. They laughed. They did not seem trapped by their biology. Suddenly, a shadow fell across her table. She looked up and saw James standing there, smiling as always. "Working hard again, Sira?" he asked gently. "Yes," she answered. I am reading everything I can. But none of these books answer my true question. James sat across from her, leaning forward curiously. What question? Can your people control themselves? She asked directly. If males are fertile all year, how do you stop your society from breaking down? Why don't humans act wildly? Why don't you mate all the time? James laughed softly, shaking his head. Sira, my gosh, it's because we're not animals. We have emotions, feelings. We make choices. Sira frowned. But feelings cannot stop biology. James smiled kindly. You'd be surprised. She paused, watching him closely. There was something about the way James spoke. He wasn't embarrassed or defensive. He was calm, relaxed, warm. This was what confused her the most. And then she asked a dangerous question. A question she didn't plan to ask. Do you choose when you fall in love? She said carefully. James blinked, caught off guard. No, love just happens. Sira wrote this down in her notebook, but her hand trembled slightly. Love happens. Without control. Words felt heavy, strange, powerful. Sira closed the book slowly. She realized that no amount of reading would give her the answer she truly wanted. If she wanted to understand human males and their strange fertility, she needed more than books. She needed direct observation, real experience. James, she said quietly, would you help me with an experiment? Raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What kind of experiment? I want to observe human courtship directly, she explained. I want to understand how your people choose partners. I must know how feelings control biology. Will you assist me? James laughed. You're asking me to, what, go on a date? Sira didn't smile. Yes. A date? Is that the correct word? James rubbed the back of his neck, a little nervous. Well, yeah, but are you serious? Very serious, she replied. This is important research. For a moment, James just looked at her, searching her alien but beautiful face for a sign of a joke. There was none. Sira was completely sincere. Finally, James chuckled softly. All right, Sira, if it's for science, I'll go on a date with you. Sira's eyes brightened slightly, a reaction she didn't expect from herself. Tomorrow evening, she said firmly. You will show me human courtship. I will take notes. James stood up, smiling wide. It's a date then. As he walked away, Sira sat back, her heart beating faster than usual. This was no longer just a mission. This was becoming something more. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure if she was observing or participating. The next evening, Sira prepared for what she called the experiment. She dressed carefully in human clothes, a simple dress James had suggested, though she felt uncomfortable in it. Her mind was racing with questions. Was this really a date? Was she ready to experience human courtship up close? Outside, James was waiting near the university entrance. When he saw her, he smiled warmly. You look great, Sira. She tilted her head, puzzled. Is that a required greeting before human mating rituals? James laughed gently. No, it's just a compliment. What? Sira quickly made a mental note. Compliments appeared to precede courtship rituals. As they walked toward the student cafe, Sira continued observing closely. James held the door open for her, a gesture she didn't understand. Was this necessary for the ritual too? She asked seriously. James chuckled again. It's called being polite. This puzzled her even more. On Viari, there was no such thing as politeness during mating season. Everything was simple, direct, functional. But here, everything seemed slow, soft, full of feeling. Inside the cafe, they found a small table. Music played softly. People laughed and talked around them. Sira scanned the room quickly. No one was rushing. No one was acting as if mating was about to begin. James, she whispered, leaning forward, when will the actual mating begin? James almost choked on his drink. His face turned bright red. Sira, he said carefully, a date isn't about that. It's about spending time together, getting to know each other, building a connection. It's not just biology. Sira blinked slowly, confused but fascinated. Humans clearly did things very differently. Tell me then, she said, how do you decide when a mating should happen, if not by season or signal? James smiled shyly. It's complicated. It depends on trust, emotions, and love. Dare. Was that word again? Love? Sierra looked around the cafe. She saw couples laughing softly, some holding hands, some just talking and smiling at each other. This was more than just reproduction. There was warmth, comfort, connection. It was a cultural clash she had not expected. Her entire mission was built on biology, but humans live through emotion. As the evening continued, James told her about human relationships, how people met, talked, shared meals, laughed together, and sometimes fell in love slowly, over weeks or months. On Viari, everything was so simple. Mating once a year, no emotions, no waiting. But here, Sierra was starting to feel something herself while James spoke. She found herself watching his face carefully, his expressions, his laugh. His kindness? It was strange. Her heart was beating faster. Her notes were becoming messy. She wasn't just observing anymore. Something inside her was changing. Then, at the end of the evening, James smiled and said, "You're really interesting, Sierra. I hope this wasn't too weird for you." Sierra paused. This wasn't just an experiment anymore. She looked down at her notebook. Her final note for the night was short. Feelings. Unpredictable, confusing, and possibly contagious. As they walked back under the stars, Sierra felt unsure for the first time. I'd come here to study humans. It was she, now becoming part of this strange, emotional species herself. The next day, Sierra sat quietly in her small room. The date had left her more confused than ever. On her home planet, Viari experiments had clear steps, predictable results. But this experiment was different. Her feelings were involved. That was dangerous. Her mission was clear: study human fertility and courtship. But human emotions were unpredictable. Now they were affecting her too. She opened her notebook and looked at the messy notes from last night. She had written about human kindness, patience, laughter, things that could not be measured easily. And then one sentence stood out: feelings, unpredictable, confusing, and possibly contagious. Sierra felt a strange warmth as she remembered James' smile. Was this affection? Was this the thing humans called love? She could not be sure, but she needed answers. That evening, Sierra decided to continue her research in a bold way. She contacted James and asked him to join her for another experiment. At first, James hesitated. Another experiment? Sierra, are you sure? Last night seemed different. Sierra answered firmly. I must understand this fully, James. I request your help once more. Please accompany me to observe human dancing. James smiled, sensing her seriousness, but also her innocence. Right, Sierra? If it's for science. That night they arrived at a campus dance party. Music played loudly, lights flashed. Across the room, and humans swayed, laughed, and moved together. Sierra was stunned. What is happening? She asked, amazed. Is this a courtship ritual? James laughed. Not exactly. People dance for fun, to feel free. Sierra tilted her head. For fun? No biological purpose? No, James said gently. Just joy. This was new too. Sierra, on Viari, no one did anything just for fun. Everything had a reason, a purpose. But here, humans danced simply because it made them happy. James extended his hand. Come on, try it, Sierra hesitated. This was not in her plan. But then, her heart raced again, that same strange warmth rising inside her. She reached out and took his hand. He led her to the dance floor where colorful lights spun around. Them and music pulsed deep into her chest. At first, she felt awkward. Her movements were stiff, unsure. But James smiled kindly, guiding her slowly, showing her simple steps. Just feel the music, he whispered. Feel. Sierra closed her eyes for a moment, letting the music flow through her. Slowly, her body began to move, not for research, not for notes, but simply because it felt good. She looked up at James, who smiled wider now. Around them, other students danced, laughed, hugged. Sierra noticed that the couples here seemed connected. It's not just physically, but emotionally. Was this why human relationships worked, despite their constant fertility? Was this emotional bond? The answer to her question? Her notebook lay forgotten on a chair nearby. In this moment, she wasn't taking notes anymore. She was part of the experiment itself. As the night went on, Sierra felt more free than she ever had before. The rules of her planet, the strict cycles of mating, the cold scientific methods, they felt far away now. Here, humans lived with passion, with choice, with emotion. And maybe she thought that was why their strange biology didn't destroy their society. It was not about biology, it was about connection. At the end of the night, as the music slowed and people began to leave, James turned to her. "You're a good dancer, Sierra," he said softly. Sierra smiled, a true, human smile. "Thank you, James," she replied quietly. This was a very successful experiment. But inside, she knew something deeper. This was no longer about her mission. This was about discovering something new. Inside herself. After the dance, Sierra sat by the window of her small room, staring at the stars above. Her notebook lay open on her desk, but she hadn't written a single word tonight. Her mission felt different now. She had come to Earth as an observer scientist sent to study human male fertility. But now, she felt like part of this strange world. She didn't just study humans anymore. She felt connected to them, especially to James. Sierra sighed softly. She knew the Science Council back on Viari would soon demand her full report. They would expect cold, clear facts charts, graphs, numbers, but what could she send them? Could she explain that humans didn't live by biology alone? That emotions and choices shaped their lives in ways Viari could never understand? She picked up her pen and slowly began writing. Human males are biologically fertile at all times, but this does not define them. Their behavior is controlled not by instinct, but by feelings, by emotions that cannot be measured by biology alone. But even this explanation felt incomplete. Her mind drifted back to James's kind smile. The way he guided her gently on the dance floor, his patience when she asked awkward questions. Was this what humans called love? Could this strange warmth inside her be the very thing she had been sent to study? The next day, James found her sitting quietly on a bench under a tall tree. "Hey, Sierra," he said gently. "You seem different today. Are you okay?" Sierra looked up at him, her blue eyes thoughtful. "James, I must send my report soon. But I feel uncertain." James sat down beside her. "Certain about what?" "Came here to study." "Your biology," she admitted. "But now I realize, your biology is not what makes you special. It is your feelings, your emotions, your connections." He smiled softly. "That's just what being human means, Sierra." She looked at him seriously. "You taught me something I did not expect to learn."
"What's that?"
Sierra hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, "You taught me how to feel." For a moment. James didn't know what to say. Then he reached out and gently took her hand in his. "That's what humans do best, Sierra," he whispered. "We feel, even when it's confusing, even when it hurts. We keep feeling." Sierra looked down at their hands. She had never touched another being this way before, not with warmth, not with emotion. On Viari, mating was a duty, a brief season of practicality. It was something entirely different. Her notebook was forgotten again, in this moment. Sierra realized that she could never truly explain this to her people back home. Feelings could not be written in a report or captured in diagrams. They had to be experienced. That evening, Sierra drafted her report, but this time, her words were different. Final conclusion. Human males show constant fertility, but their society is shaped not by biology alone. Human emotions, love, kindness, trust are the true force that guides their behavior. This must be studied further, but not from a distance. To understand humans, one must live among them. And then, at the end of her report, she wrote one more sentence. Request, extend my stay on Earth. The next morning, Sierra walked slowly through the campus garden, feeling different than when she first arrived. The trees seemed greener, the air warmer, and even the sounds of students laughing felt more familiar now. Her report was ready. She had sent it to the Science Council last night, but this time, her report didn't just contain cold data. It included something far more unusual, a request to extend her stay on Earth. She was no longer just an alien observer. Earth, and especially James, had changed her. Suddenly, she heard James' voice behind her. "Sira, hey. Wait up!" She turned around, her heart beating faster. Another human reaction she was slowly starting to accept. James jogged up and smiled. "So, did you finish your big report?" Sira nodded calmly. "Yes. I have submitted my findings to my council." James looked curious. "And what did you tell them?" "I told them that human males are fertile at all times, but that fertility is not the most important thing about your species," she explained softly. James chuckled. "Oh, then what is?" Sira stepped closer and looked straight into his eyes. "Your ability to feel, to care, to love." Her words made James pause, his smile softening. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then James asked gently, "So, are you leaving soon?" Sira shook her head slowly. "No, I have asked for permission to stay longer." James smiled, but this time his smile was full of emotion, a mixture of happiness and relief. "Why did you decide that?" he asked. Sira took a deep breath. "At first, I believed I could study your people from a distance. But I have learned that to truly understand humans, I must live among them and feel like them." Her hand reached out and lightly touched. His a small gesture, but it felt powerful. On her home planet, such a touch would mean nothing. Here, it meant everything. James squeezed her hand gently. Sira smiled, a true human smile, and for the first time, she felt completely at peace. As they walked together through the garden, Sira realized that this was not the end of her mission. This was only the beginning. A beginning where science and emotion would walk side by side, where she would not just observe, but live as part of this messy, beautiful, unpredictable human world.